Alright, I am back with what may be a dwindling number of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League videos, and that is parts of what I want to talk about today. Yesterday I did sort of my full video review on the game, and today I wanted to talk about separately whether or not this game is a success, and if it is a failure, how big of a failure is it, and what that means for the game, for Rocksteady, for live service stuff in general, which I don't think is out of the realm of possibility to question here. And I don't think it's going great. So we do not have any official metrics as far as I can tell from Rocksteady. There's no like, thank you for our 5 million players, blah, blah, blah. Like, they haven't announced anything like that. It is still pretty close to launch, so maybe you wouldn't expect something like that. But it's a very strange situation. So critically, this game is a failure. Let me look up exactly what the Metascore is right now. But last time I looked, it was a 63. And, oh god, now it's a 59? Oh, okay. That's bad. That's like very much failure territory. Now that's just going to make me look up Redfall. Redfall's a 56. I personally don't think that's super fair. I mean, I gave Suicide Squad a 6.5, so like a 65, so it's not that far off, but Redfall is one of like the worst AAA games I think I've ever played. So I would have put Redfall lower, but that's insane. That is probably going to be one of the worst reviewed big AAA games of the year, if not the worst. Like, yeah, you get lower rated games like Gollum, whatever, or like the crappy King Kong game, but like for big major AAA releases, and this is something that Rocksteady has worked on for 7 to 9 years, a 59 is terrible. Like, that is so bad. But conversely, it's this weird situation where user reviews are actually pretty good. Quite good, honestly. On PlayStation and Xbox, I think it's hovering around like a 4.5 out of 5. On Steam, it's around 85% positive, which that's a really big disparity. Like, usually when a game reviews this poorly, there is generally kind of some semblance of, connection between critics and users. Like, everyone always likes to complain about Metacritic, about game critics, but like more often than not, if you're scoring some game like crazy high, like 90s plus, most people agree that's a good game. 75, 85, pretty good game, like nothing insane maybe, but like there are not that many circumstances where you see this level of a divide. And the exception here is Suicide Squad has a 3.8 out of 1,100 user reviews, so that is very low compared to the PlayStation and Steam ones, but I am willing to concede that you don't have to verify your purchase on Metacritic, so I would probably trust that less. That said, there is some sort of, selection bias to, the first 1,000 people or whatever who were playing Suicide Squad day one and like wanted to, if you were really into it enough to play it day one and grind it all this time, like maybe you're predisposed to like it more as opposed to a critic who is doing it for their job. But I won't discount that these ratings are pretty high. What it comes down to then is number of players. And this is where things, I think, start to get pretty concerning, both in terms of how this launched and what that might mean for sales, but also what that means for its longer-term live service prospects. And I will admittedly, this probably is a game that is more console-based than PC-based. I mean, if you try to play on PC, it's literally like, use a controller. You should be using a controller. So I played the whole thing with my Xbox controller, and that was fine. It was a lot better than using keyboard and mouse for this type of game, I'm sure. So I'm willing to concede that this definitely skews console heavy. For the charts, at least in the US, I think it debuted at number 2 on PlayStation, and what are we, a week-ish away from launch? Now it's down to number 5. And on Xbox, it's hard to tell, like, it's like number 20. It was number 22 a few days ago. But those charts on Xbox always lag pretty far behind, so I think those might just be like still early access numbers. But Steam numbers are incredibly bad, like really bad. This debuted, I think the max is around 13,000 peak concurrents. We can't compare everything to Pal World, but like Pal World just set records for 2 million concurrents. So we're not even talking like, oh, it just edged out this big AAA game. Like, it's not close. And the peak of 13,000 is half ish of what Avengers did on PC, and you can say that is a console-based game too. It is 10% of what Outriders did. Outriders actually did really well initially. It did 125,000 concurrents on Steam. You could even argue that was a mostly console focused release, as that debuted on Xbox Game Pass, so there was certainly a lot of console play there. I don't know how, dramatic the difference is between how things skew console versus PC between games like this and Gotham Knights and Avengers and Outriders. It's also under Gotham Knights, I believe. And that to me is a big kind of alarm going off. And this has created a really weird situation where if you go to like the fan communities, the Suicide Squad subreddit, almost the whole subreddit is like, it's either, people complaining about some aspects of the game, but more often than not, it's like, I can't believe the critics and everyone's saying this bad. Like, this game is awesome. And it's like 50 posts like that, to the point where some people are like, can we stop just like talking about the reception of this game? And if we like it, like actually talk about the game. But there's this like really sort of defensive posture a lot of people have, gotten into when this game is being criticized in a way that I haven't really seen in other launches like this. Like it's more defensive than I've seen for other low-rated games or live games that weren't necessarily loved at launch. It's not something I've seen too often. So I do find it sort of fascinating that it feels like this game sparked a really, really core loyal fan base. It's just, I think that fan base is going to be so small that it's not going to sustain this game as a live service. And how it launched is one question, because this is a $70 launch and you need to sell a lot of copies of that because it's not some free-to-play thing where you're going to rake in all your money from gacha gambling or whatever. Like, it is a $70 launch. You need to sell a lot of copies of that up front and not have people wait for it to be used or wait for a sale or all that stuff. You want to sell a lot of copies up front. But then we switch into live service mode. And what appears to be at least true is that Rocksteady has really, 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 really tried to go down the path of having a bunch of content like prepared for launch, polishing the base game enough where they don't have to spend months and months and months fixing it like other games, which we've seen many, many times in this genre, and just immediately go, launching into their first thing like a month, 6 weeks after the game arrives, and then another thing 6 weeks, 2 months, whatever after that, and like they have stuff lined up and ready to go. The problem is, I think a lot of people were turned off by the concept. Like, in all of the previews, this has gotten a severely mixed reaction from pretty much almost every preview. It after the really kind of ugly showing that it had initially at the PlayStation event, it got delayed for 9 months. They said it wasn't because of the reaction, but and then this did not have any review copies go out because they did not. They said, it's, oh, critics, we can't turn the servers on. It's an online game. There are plenty of ways to get around that. And in hindsight, yeah, you don't really want to roll out your game with a 59 review score. Although, like, within 48 hours, places had reviews out and it was like a 61 with the first couple of reviews. And it's like, okay, well, it's only 4 or 5 reviews in. Like, well, we'll see. And now we're 64 reviews in on PlayStation and it's a 59. So it really feels like they sort of saw this coming, but I don't know how this can be successful at this point. It has 2 problems. It has the initial problems are already over. Bad reviews, whatever, like that exists. It has to have a sustainable amount of players, like a critical mass of players where it is worth continually investing and building content for them. And as we've learned from Destiny, building PvE content, subs-in PvE content is crazily expensive because it takes a lot of work to, I don't know, animate a bunch of new cutscenes with crazy good facial capture tech every time you introduce a new Justice League member, Suicide Squad member. Like, that is going to be very difficult. Or it's money they've already spent that, they've already finished this stuff, and that was very expensive. And I would be amazed if 20, 30% of people ended up coming back for the first big content drop after this. This seems like a game that most people would probably beat, maybe mess around a little end game, and then move on. As someone who's still playing the end game, I'm at mastery 35 or something, and there are 0.4% of owners of the game that have reached mastery 20, which is maybe when mastery stuff starts to get a little bit hard, is around that point. And that does not really speak to me that players are like really, really deep diving into this outside of like very select people that are getting really into it. I just don't think there's enough of those people up front here. And then I don't think enough of those people will carry over to season 2 and season 3 and season 4. And if the numbers up front are not strong enough, it's not going to go up. Like, this is not what happens with releases. Like, you have a big spike at launch, and then in a live game, like, things will go down, up and down as seasons release, but they're not going to be at the launch spike, almost never. And then, oh, there's a big expansion, and then it goes up again. Oh, we fixed all these things. The game's better. We don't even know if Suicide Squad is doing expansions like this. We've heard nothing about that. It just seems like it's supposed to be doing these ongoing seasons. And the other problem here is monetization. And I think it's good that they are doing something, like only selling cosmetics. That's sort of like baseline what you have to do. They're not doing gacha pulls for new characters and stuff, but they're doing the Avengers thing where their updates, their seasonal stuff, their new characters are free. And that's well and good. Like, oh, it's a $70 game. Like, I don't want to pay $10, every season for stuff. Like, okay, that's fine. And they're going to have a battle pass that is no doubt $10, $15 or whatever, full of cosmetics for whatever. But in that instance, you are purely relying on people to want to buy cosmetics. And so you are taking an even smaller fraction of the people who come back for the season, and a fraction of those people need to buy the cosmetics to make the seasonal model supportive. Like, I would probably pay $10 for a new season of this personally, because like I'm curious for new characters and stuff, but like they're not even asking that. They're just saying, oh well, if you want some cosmetics to grind out, that's going to be $10. And of course they're going to have cosmetics in the item shop themselves for 10, 15, 20 bucks, whatever it is. And while this might be, pro player, it also doesn't really speak to me as a sustainable revenue model. I don't think you're going to bring in enough money that way to support continued development of content like that. Maybe you do if this has a huge launch, a huge player base, and then once you get into these fraction of a fraction of a fraction things, that number is still enough because it's your player base is so big that it is enough to sustain the game. And one person buys three $20 skins, and that's enough of that's like selling a second copy of the game. But I don't see it happening here. And I think it might not be like 3 points above Redfall bad. I don't remotely think it's that bad. And there are genuinely people who really are enjoying it. It doesn't feel like it has remotely close to come hitting the mark that was no doubt set for it by both Rocksteady and Warner Brothers. We can talk about whose fault this is. There's this idea that Rocksteady was forced to make this by WB, and by all accounts, it was was something they wanted to work on. There's lots of people that are really proud of having worked on this game, and there are plenty of things to be proud about with this game. I just don't think that launching a new live service game in 2024, one that no one really asked for in the first place, using the DC universe, but using it in a way people did not want to see, essentially. Like, they specifically wanted you to make another game. Like, it's not like Outriders, like, oh, it's a new IP, like, this is a crazy world, like, is this going to be interesting? Is it not? Like, we wanted you to make a Superman, Batman Beyond, Wonder Woman, whatever game, and you didn't do it, and you made a live service Suicide Squad game. Like, that is, I think, a big turnoff for most people. I don't think the player count is high enough. I don't think the monetization method is going to be able to take advantage of the very low player count this does have. And I don't think it's going to work. And I wish it did. Like, I wish I could make content for this and not be very bored after grinding out insane amounts of masteries based on how repetitive it is. I wish it was better. I wish it was received better past the very, very hardcore defensive group of people that are into it. But I don't think it's going to happen. I will still post stuff about it. I don't know. There's still stuff to talk about, I think, and I find it, interesting in many ways. But this is just sort of my analysis of how it's going, and we're gonna have to wait for some more additional hard data, if any, comes in terms of how it's doing. I didn't even mention Twitch viewership, where I looked it up before this. It's like the 60th most watched game, and this is like a live co-op shooter you're supposed to be playing with friends, and they did all of these sponsored Twitch streams as promotion, where get four big name streamers together to do this. There's Twitch drops going on right now, and it is in 60th place with 6,000 total viewers. And I think 3,000 are from like one person. So there's another metric for you. But I don't know. We'll see. I didn't have a good feeling before this. I don't have a good feeling now. Probably an even worse one, but we will see how it goes. But yeah, thanks for watching. I will talk to you soon. Take care.